Welcome to our gaming podcast. Today, we're discussing Elden Ring Nightreign, a multiplayer spin-off of FromSoftware's Elden Ring. Joining me is gaming expert Joshua Rivera. Joshua, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. Elden Ring Nightreign is an interesting take on the Elden Ring formula, but it's not without its challenges. The game is designed for players to work together, but it's not as straightforward as it seems.
Can you elaborate on that? What makes Elden Ring Nightreign so challenging?
Well, the game is structured around a series of expeditions, each consisting of 3 rounds called days. The first 2 days are familiar to anyone who's played a battle royale game, but the 3rd day is where things get complicated. You have to survive a second boss fight before facing the final Night Lord.
That sounds like a lot to take in. How does the game handle instruction and guidance for players?
To be honest, the game doesn't do a great job of explaining itself. The only in-game instruction you get is a simple tutorial, and the rest is up to you to figure out. It's not ideal, especially for players who are new to the series.
I see. So, it's a game that requires a lot of teamwork and communication between players. Is that right?
Exactly. And it's not just about defeating the bosses. It's about working together as a team to achieve your goals. The game is designed to be replayed with the same crew, and that's where the real fun lies.
That's a great point.
Elden Ring Nightreign is an expansion to the highly acclaimed Elden Ring game. What are your thoughts on it?
I've been following the game's development, and it seems like FromSoftware has managed to create a fun and engaging experience. The game's co-op extraction format is a great addition, and the combat is still as addictive as ever.
Absolutely. The combat is where Nightreign truly shines. The addition of class stats and class skills further dictates how you play in combat each run within your team, or even solo. It's a great twist on the classic Souls formula.
That's a great point. And the game's replayability is also high, thanks to the class variety and the randomization of the loot. What about the multiplayer aspect? How does it hold up?
The multiplayer is a lot of fun, but it does have some limitations. The in-game communication is limited to pins, and there's no option for voice or written chat. However, the game's P2P netcode does make for some frustrating moments, especially with enemy health jumping back up and parries not happening.
That's a good point to note. And what about the game's price point? Is it worth the investment?
I think the game is priced reasonably at $39.99. It's a bit of a bargain, considering the amount of content and the fun gameplay experience. Of course, it's not a long game in terms of its main story, but the replayability and the multiplayer aspect make it worth playing.
Well, there you have it, folks. Elden Ring Nightreign is a great addition to the series, and it's definitely worth checking out.
Elden Ring Nightreign is indeed an interesting take on the Elden Ring universe. It's a roguelike experience that's all about experimentation and discovery.
That's right. The game features a unique looting system where players can collect and combine different relics to create powerful characters. Can you tell us more about the system?
Yes, the looting system is one of the standout features of Nightreign. Players can collect relics that provide various bonuses, such as increased strength or poise. These relics can be combined in different ways to create unique builds and playstyles.
I've heard that the game also has a strong focus on social play. Can you elaborate on that?
Absolutely. Nightreign is designed to be played with others, and the game encourages players to work together and share resources. The game's world is also semi-randomized, so players will need to communicate and coordinate with each other to succeed.
That sounds like a lot of fun. What about the game's story and characters?
The story of Nightreign is actually quite touching. It's about a group of characters from different backgrounds coming together to overcome a common goal. The game's narrative is also heavily focused on the connections between players, both in-game and in the real world.
That's really interesting. It sounds like Nightreign is a game that's all about community and collaboration. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes, that's a fair assessment. Nightreign is a game that celebrates the community of Souls-like players and the connections that we make with each other through gaming.
Well, it sounds like Nightreign is a game that's definitely worth checking out. Thanks for sharing your insights with us today, Alex.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
And that's all for today's episode. If you're interested in learning more about Elden Ring Nightreign, be sure to check out our show notes for links and resources.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on our podcast.
What were your initial impressions of the game?
At first, I thought it was a lot like teaching. The game's fast-paced and frenetic, with so many decisions to make, and everyone felt fresh and had weight. However, the repetition of the gameplay loop wore thin eventually, and it felt like I was teaching the same tired lesson over and over.
That's an interesting analogy. Can you elaborate on how the gameplay loop works in Nightreign?
Yes, in Nightreign, you select one of 8 excursions and a character class. You have 3 days to explore, grab upgrades, level up, and take down bosses. The explorable area shrinks down to a single point where you fight a boss, and clearing that boss allows you to move on to the second day, and so on.
I see. And what about playing with others? Is that a recommended approach?
Absolutely. Playing with others brings its own difficulties, but it's essential to the game's design. You need to make decisions quickly, and others need to follow. The lack of in-game party chat or voice functionality can be a challenge, but finding a couple of friends and jumping in a voice chat can help.
That's a great point. What about the game's difficulty and the bosses? Are they challenging?
Yes, the bosses are beautifully designed and an excellent challenge. However, the repetition of the gameplay loop leading up to the final boss can be frustrating. Even with skilled players, it took us multiple runs to get it clear, and I found myself wanting to win just to avoid doing the run again.
I see. And what about the game's story and narrative? Is there much to explore there?
Not in the traditional Soulsborne sense. The story is mostly found through quests with different people at the Round Table hold, and there's a surprising amount of variety in how you complete them. However, they feel disconnected from what you're actually doing in the game.
That's a good point. Finally, what's your overall verdict on Elden Ring Nightreign?
While Nightreign is a game of learning and trial and error, I found a repetition of the gameplay loop to be a major drawback. However, the game's complexity and variety, particularly with the different classes and party composition, can help mitigate some of the tedium. It's a game that will appeal to fans of the Soulsborne series, but may not be for everyone.